Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you today. We are going to spend some time today answering some emails and really digging in on a couple of subjects. You guys really responded strongly to yesterday's podcast. I'm going to give you some example. This first one comes to us from Marco P. And Marco P asks this question. He says, Hondo, I have not heard it put like you put it tonight on the podcast about Raiders franchise needing to give us a reason for hope and to remind us why we fell in love with them. That is a really, really good point. I'd appreciate if you could expand on that. Now, normally I wouldn't be answering a couple of emails, but there was such a voluminous amount of email on three topics. We're going to talk about this one. So let's get right into this. I think with a game against Jacksonville, which I believe they will win, Jacksonville is not healthy, even with their bye week. Jacksonville is an improved team, but this game is at home. Jacksonville's not going to travel with a huge crowd, so the Raiders are going to have the home field advantage. This game is teed up like a golf ball for the Raiders to win. Then it allows them to get a little confidence if they stay healthy. And then bam, they're 4-5. Do I think they're a playoff team at 4-5? Not in the least bit. Do I think they're going to go beat Denver? No, I don't. But I certainly wouldn't be shocked at a win. They're good enough to beat them. They've not performed back to back at a level that I think that I could make that prediction. But I wouldn't be surprised at all. And I believe in Pete. So having said that, this is where they have the opportunity to go out and remind their franchise. I was told once, and I think it was Wayne Mabry, the violator, that told me this. In fact, unless he calls me and he watches the podcast every day, he'll let me know if I'm wrong. But he's a good friend. I love Wayne. What a wonderful human being. Um, I, he's just a peach of a human being. And we were talking about Raider Nation as a whole. And it, the black hole has millionaires and it has broke people, literally millionaires and broke. And it's all colors, all religious or lack of religious, all politics. Everybody's in there. I know people who are in the black hole who are very wealthy, and I know people who are not. I know people that are Republican and Democrat, conservative and liberal. I know people that are Christians. I know people that are Muslim, and I know people who are atheists. I don't know anyone else. I'm sure there are Buddhists and others. I just don't know them. Um, and so that group, that eclectic group of people, were able to come together under the banner of the franchise because Al Davis built this as a hard working. It was reflective of Oakland. It was reflective of just hardworking people, not presumptuous. Go win. We're going to work harder than anybody else. We're going to beat you up. We're going to make it happen. You're not going to out tough us. That's their fan base. And that is a very loyal fan base. I'm proud to be from the Midwest, where the majority of Midwestern people, regardless of a religious affiliation or politics or color, are hardworking people. Hardworking people. And they've got, even the if they're white collar, they have a blue collar mentality. And the Raiders got to show that. This franchise was built by a man with a blue collar mentality in Al Davis. And that fan base, whether you believe it or not, because you haven't seen the winning product from the field, was built by a fan base who bought into that. They bought what Al was selling because it was genuine. I still think that spirit is there. Matter of fact, I'm not going to say think. I know it is. Mark Davis, I've said this multiple times, is a blue collar billionaire. I can't tell you the number of times I've run into Mark, and he's not surrounded like a bunch of security like he's the president of the United States. And you see that with a lot of the NFL owners. And you're like, why? And Mark is approachable. He's warm. I have never had an experience with Mark Davis. And I've been around him when he's been frustrated, and I've been around him when he's happy. I've never had an encounter with Mark Davis that was anything other than absolutely genuine. I've had a lot of encounters with NFL owners. Um, you can't say that about all of them. You just can't. And I think Mark is still that way. I do. And so I think he's trying to get the team back there. I think Pete's that way. Pete is absolutely down to earth. He's an extremely hard worker. I'm going to tell you right now, I had one of the players, I think it was during the bye week, it may have been Monday, but talk about his work ethic with me. That has resonated in this locker room. Pete's working. He's always there. And so now they've got to go show that to the fan base. And the fan base, rightfully so, may I add, could be from the state of Missouri. Just show us. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. And I'm just telling you that I think that is the modus operandi of this franchise right now. They have an opportunity over these next two games to go show improvement. Listen, we're not going to sit here if they win the next two games and you have me say, hey, guess what? I think they're going to the playoffs. I don't. I just don't think they're good enough. I don't think they have the depth. But you're sitting here in two games from now, after two games, and they're 4-5. Then they've given you a bone with some meat on it to chew. Now they've given Raider Nation a chance to go, whoa, tap the brakes here a little bit. Let's dig into what they're doing. That's how you buy from your franchise. That's how you get the fan base to buy in. Do I expect a lot of empty seats on Sunday? I do. I do. Do I expect it to be a very pro Raider crowd and loud? I do. That's this fan base. They're going to be there. And they're begging the franchise to give them something to believe in. The second email I want to address, and this comes to us from Peter uh, Peter T. Peter T lives in Boca Raton, Florida. Peter says, Hondo, I just got done watching your podcast. I have to tell you, I thought it was terrific. I don't know that I agree with the sitting of Max for the rest of the season. I would maybe put him on a snap count or something like that. What do you think about that in response to maybe not sitting him? But I agree with you. He's too important for the future. I liked your analogy about the only person you trade a generational defensive end for is a generational quarterback. Peter T. in Boca Raton. Okay, I'm going to say this to you. They're not going to sit him. I told you that's what I would do, but they're not going to do that. And okay, but a snap count ain't going to work with Max. Anybody that would suggest that, I'm not, Peter, insulting you. You just don't know Max. If Max is in pads and he's on the sideline, Max is playing. Try to keep him off the field if he can. Now you saw the back spasms. I mean, excuse me, that was Adam Butler. But you saw the unable to play last week. We're not, but if he's able, and you say, "Hey Max, you're on a snap count. That was snap 20. You're done." This is what Matt's going to, and I know him. And he's going on the field. What are you going to do? Ask Thomas Booker, can you tackle Max and bring him in here, please? We don't want him to play. And Max is that guy. Max is that generational player who practices as hard as he plays and plays at an elite level. So Hondo's opinion was just that. And I said, I don't think they're going to do it. But this is interesting now. This is interesting now because let's say they lose the next two, which they could. I don't think they will, but they could. You're 2-7. This is why these next two games are so critical. You come out of the bye, you're healthy again. Show your fans what your offense is going to look like, what it should look like. But Max is too vital. Too vital. Then here's the email that got a massive response. Again, when I say it's not a singular email, but it's the same principle. And this comes to us from Trisha B. Trisha B. And Trisha lives in Greenville, South Carolina. Hondo, my husband and I are major Raider fans coming in for the weekend. Can't wait to watch the game. This is my gift to him for his birthday. We watch your podcast every night, and I noticed something I wanted to ask you about. On today's podcast, you talked about needing to see the offense looking more realistic, taking on an appearance of what you saw. Thank you for saying the obvious out loud. I don't know why it's not getting more play. Trisha, I'm going to disagree there. I think it's getting a lot of play. I mean, listen, I appreciate the compliments, but let's not tap Hondo on the shoulder. It is not like the Raiders. Other beat writers aren't saying the same thing. This isn't what we saw in camp. It isn't what we even saw in games in game one. Now I understand in game one it was very, very pass heavy, but that was because Vrabel sold out to stop the run. That made sense to me. That was sensical. All right. Vrabel's not going to let Ashton beat him, which was his MO. And I told you that. You can go back and watch the podcast that whole week. I told you that. That's his MO. You're not going to beat me with the run. Not going to. Okay. So I don't care if they're pass happy because a team sells out. Where I have an issue is when a team doesn't sell out. Indianapolis didn't sell out. Kansas City didn't sell out. There was a lot that didn't sell out. And the Raiders, in my opinion, sold out. The Raiders, in my opinion, sold out. Can't do that. I have said this multiple times, and I will say it again. And every time I say it, it gets me negative feedback, and I'm okay with that. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I am not sitting here with pitchforks calling for Chip Kelly to get fired yet. But Chip has to show us what he showed us in the very first press conference he had. My system is taking what the players I have and making it work. If the Raiders go lose to Jacksonville and they go lose to Denver, I don't want to walk away from the game as a pundit, and I'm sure it's much bigger for Raider fans and part of the and Raiders in the organization, feeling like Chip Kelly didn't give me a chance to win. If I'm sitting up in the higher perches of the Allegiant Stadium on Sunday, and the topic of my podcast is Chip Kelly cost you the game, and I'm a Raider fan, I'm beyond angry. I said, and the Commanders game, I think that, no, that was not the Commanders game. Whatever the second game of the year was, I don't even remember anymore. But I said in that game, no, it was the Commanders game. All right, I don't remember. But I said when they played the Commanders that I felt like the Raiders played poorly. Forget it. It all runs together. But in one of the early games that they lost, I made the comment, I liked the game plan. I thought Chip executed the game plan. The players didn't. Chip called a good game. Players didn't play well. Okay, that's not on Chip. And in those games, you could come up with a reasonable point. They don't have the talent to compete. But nothing gets a fan base or a locker room more angry than walking away from a loss feeling like my staff cost me. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable. And he's got to get it fixed. Now, I'm not being duplicitous. I think they beat Jacksonville. Then I think it's imperative, no moral victories, but it's imperative they can't go up to Denver and get blown out. They got to go up to Denver, fight, scratch, and claw. If it exposes them as being talent anemic, fans can not like it, but they can, all right, well, we're going to have drafts and another free agency with a massive amount of free agent money next year. But if they go up there and it's like, no, we are talent anemic and coaching anemic, it's good. This fan base is going to go atomic and should. And should. I'm going to say this to you, and I'm going to give you an example here. You're paying Geno $40 million large. Okay. If the Raiders were 2-5 playing Cam Miller, Raider Nation would be angry. Raider Nation would also be, all right, we're developing a rookie quarterback. We're thinking about the future. They would not be happy, but they would understand that. You're paying a guy $40 million and you're getting the performances that you're getting from Geno, and it's toxic. Why? Cost. When I go out to a fine Brazilian steakhouse for dinner, I expect a different cut of beef than when I go to McDonald's. They're both cows, different costs. Follow me. You fire Getsy, who should have never been hired, in my opinion. You put an intern in there who did really good, Philbin, but then you go spend, or I'm going to say this, I think certainly, you put Philbin in to run the offensive line, Scott Turner, and I thought Scott was significantly better than what Chip's done. But there was the frustration with Scott that isn't there with that was nowhere near at the levels of where it is with Chip. Why? Because you're paying him $6 million large and he's the highest paid OC in the league. I'm sorry, that does not bode well. It doesn't breed confidence. And that's what this franchise is in desperate need of. Desperate need of. They have got to have that confidence. Got to get it. Got to get it. Hey, everybody, remember our new URL, si.com/NFL/Raiders/on SI, ONSI. Again, si.com/NFL/Raiders/on SI. That's the new URL for the website. Got a lot of great, awesome designs coming. You can also sign up for our 100% free newsletter. Doesn't cost you anything. We do not sell your information, but you'll get our every other day or so, about 3 or 4 times a week, you're going to get our very best emails from our top stories. So you'll never miss another Raiders story. Check all that out. We'll see you real soon. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. See you tomorrow.